Captain Lee Taman stood in the center of the massive crystal chamber, feeling very small. The walls rose high above him, made of some kind of blue crystal that glowed with its own light. Hundreds of alien beings filled the seats around him, their strange eyes all looking down at him with what he could only call amusement. This was the Galactic Council, the most important gathering in known space. Representatives from dozens of different worlds came here to make decisions that affected entire star systems. And today, they were here to judge humanity. Taman had practiced this speech 1,000 times during the long journey from Earth. He had memorized every word, every pause, every gesture. He knew the facts about human achievements, their technology, their culture. But standing here now, surrounded by beings that could fly without machines, who had skin that changed colors, who had more arms than any human should have, he felt like a child trying to convince adults that he belonged at their table. Honored members of the council, Taman began, his voice echoing in the vast chamber. I come before you today representing the human race of Earth. We seek membership in your great alliance of worlds. A sound filled the chamber that made Taman's blood run cold. It was laughter, but not the kind humans made. This was a mix of clicking sounds, deep rumbles, and high-pitched whistles. The aliens were laughing at him. The laughter grew louder as one of the council members stood up. It was tall and thin, with 6 arms that moved like snakes. Its skin was purple and covered in scales that caught the crystal light. When it spoke, its voice sounded like metal scraping against stone. Humans, the creature said, and the word dripped with scorn. We have studied your species for some time now. You are barely out of your caves. You still burn dead plants for energy. You kill each other over invisible lines drawn on maps. And you think you are ready to join us? More laughter filled the chamber. Taman felt his face grow hot, but he kept his expression calm. He had expected this. Earth's leaders had warned him that the first meeting would not go well. Another council member rose to speak. This one looked like it was made of living light, its form shifting and flowing like water. When it spoke, its voice sounded like wind chimes. We have observed your technology, the light being said. Your fastest ships take years to travel between stars. Our slowest cargo vessels make the same journey in days. You use crude metal projectiles as weapons. We manipulate energy itself. You have not even learned to control gravity properly. A third alien joined the conversation. This one was massive, easily 3 times the height of a human, with thick gray skin like an elephant. Its voice was so deep that Taman felt it in his chest. Your species fights constant wars, the giant rumbled. In the time we have watched you, you have never had a single year of peace on your entire planet. You cannot even agree among yourselves. How can you expect to work with others across the galaxy? Taman opened his mouth to respond, but the 6-armed alien raised one of its hands for silence. Let us examine the evidence of human civilization, it said with obvious enjoyment. You poison your own air and water. You destroy the forests that create the oxygen you breathe. You have weapons that could destroy your entire world, and you point them at each other. Your average lifespan is barely a century. Some of our youngest members have lived longer than your entire recorded history. The chamber erupted in more laughter. Taman saw aliens wiping tears from their eyes, or what he assumed were their eyes. Others were making sounds that might have been applause. An alien that looked like a giant insect clicked its mandibles together. Their ships, it buzzed, are held together with bolts and welding. They use chemical explosions to push themselves through space. My ancestors built better vessels when they were still living in hives. And their weapons, added another creature that seemed to be made of living metal. They fire small pieces of metal at each other. Metal. When we have learned to weaponize stars themselves. Taman waited for the laughter to die down before speaking again. Honored council members, he said. Humanity may be young, but we have achieved much in a short time. We have unified our world under a single government. We have eliminated poverty and hunger. We have begun to explore the stars. The 6-armed alien made a sound that might have been a snort. Unified? We have records of 3 separate wars that ended just last year. Your so-called unity is as fragile as your ships. As for eliminating poverty, the light being added, our sensors detect millions of your people still living in conditions that we would consider torture. Your definition of success is quite different from ours. The massive gray alien leaned forward. You say you have begun to explore the stars. You have visited exactly 2 other worlds in your system, and only for brief moments. We have colonies in thousands of systems. We have turned entire dead worlds into gardens. We have moved stars themselves to better suit our needs. Taman felt sweat forming on his forehead. Every point he tried to make was torn apart by these beings who had centuries or millennia of experience beyond anything humanity could imagine. Perhaps, said a new voice, we should consider what humans might contribute to our alliance. The speaker was an alien unlike the others. It was ancient, that much was clear. Its body was covered in what looked like living moss, and its eyes were like deep pools of starlight. When it spoke, the entire chamber fell silent with respect. Let us see, the ancient being continued. Humans have music, though many species have music. They have art, though most species create beauty in some form. They have stories. Though every thinking being tells stories, it paused, and Taemin could feel the weight of its attention like a physical thing. They have one trait that is uniquely strong among them, the ancient alien said. They refuse to give up, even when giving up would be the smart thing to do. They call it stubbornness. We might call it amusing. More laughter filled the chamber, but this time it had a different quality. It was not the laughter of beings enjoying a joke. It was the laughter of adults watching a child try to lift something too heavy for them. The six-armed alien stood again. The council has heard enough, it announced. We vote on humanity's application for membership. What followed was not really a vote. It was more like a countdown of rejection. One by one, each species announced their decision. No, no, no. The word echoed through the chamber in dozens of different languages. But the meaning was always the same. When the last vote was cast, the six-armed alien looked down at Taemin with something that might have been pity. Captain Lee Taemin of Earth, it said formally. The Galactic Council hereby rejects humanity's application for membership. We suggest you return to your world and focus on evolving past your current primitive state. Perhaps in 1,000 years, when you have learned to stop killing each other and have developed actual technology, we might consider your request again. The ancient alien added its own comment. Until then, we will continue to watch your species with interest. It will be curious to see how long you take to destroy yourselves. Our scholars have placed wagers on whether you will last another century. Taemin felt something cold and hard settle in his stomach. They were not just rejecting humanity's request. They were betting on when humans would go extinct. I understand the council's decision, he said, his voice steady despite the anger building inside him. I will carry your message back to Earth. As he turned to leave the crystal chamber, Taemin heard the aliens continuing their conversation behind him. They spoke casually about humanity as if humans were not really people at all, just interesting animals to observe from a distance. Their ships are rather cute, one said, like toys made by children. I particularly enjoyed their presentation about their military, another added. Chemical rockets and metal bullets. It reminds me of my own species' history, back when we were still barbarians. Taemin walked through the long crystal corridors toward his ship, his footsteps echoing in the silence. His escort, a floating robot that looked like a silver ball, led him without speaking. Even the machines here thought humans were beneath notice. But as he walked, Taemin was not thinking about the rejection or the laughter or the insults. He was thinking about a conversation he had had with Fleet Admiral Park Ji-woo before leaving Earth. They will reject us, Ji-woo had said. And they will underestimate us. Both of these things are exactly what we need. Taemin reached his small human ship, docked alongside vessels that were clearly far more advanced. Some of the alien ships seemed to be made of light itself. Others looked like they were grown rather than built. His own ship, with its metal hull and chemical engines, looked like a primitive artifact in comparison. But as he settled into the pilot's seat and began the startup sequence, Taemin smiled for the first time since arriving at the council station. He opened a secure communication channel back to Earth and began to record his message. Fleet Admiral Park, he said, diplomatic contact with the Galactic Council has been completed. As expected, they have rejected our application for membership. They consider humanity primitive, weak, and unworthy of their attention. They believe our technology is laughably inferior to theirs. He paused, watching through his viewports as alien ships moved through space with impossible grace and speed. Fleet Admiral Park Ji-woo sat in the war room deep beneath Seoul, watching the holographic display show Captain Lee Taemin's ship as it traveled back from the Galactic Council. The journey would take 3 weeks, but Taemin's message had already arrived through quantum communication. The aliens had rejected humanity's request, just as expected. More importantly, They had done exactly what Jiwoo hoped they would do. They had laughed. "Show me the recording again," Jiwoo said to his aide. The hologram shifted to display the audio message from Tai Min. As the captain's voice filled the room, describing the aliens' mockery and dismissal, Jiwoo felt a cold satisfaction growing in his chest. Every insult, every laugh, every comment about primitive human technology was exactly what he needed to hear. The door to the war room opened, and 3 people entered. Dr. Kim Sora walked in first, carrying a tablet filled with data. She was the head of the Xenotechnology Research Division, the secret program that had been studying alien technology for over a decade. Behind her came Commander Choi Min-ho, leader of the Experimental Weapons Program. The third person was Chief Engineer Nam Hee-jin, whose team had been working on projects that officially did not exist. "Admiral," Dr. Kim said as she took her seat at the conference table, "I assume you've heard from Captain Lee?" "They called our ships toys made by children," Jiwoo replied. "They said our weapons were metal bullets that reminded them of their barbarian ancestors. They think we're so primitive that we'll destroy ourselves within a century." Commander Choi laughed, but there was no humor in the sound. "Perfect. That means they haven't figured out what we've really been doing for the past 15 years. Jiwoo activated the room's security systems, ensuring that no signals could enter or leave. What they were about to discuss was classified at the highest possible level. Only 50 people on Earth knew the full truth about humanity's real capabilities. "Dr. Kim," Jiwoo said, "give us the current status report." Dr. Kim activated her tablet, and the holographic display changed to show technical diagrams and charts. "Admiral, we now have complete understanding of alien shielding technology. For the past 10 years, we've been analyzing every piece of debris, every energy signature, every scan we could obtain from alien vessels." She pointed to a diagram showing an alien ship surrounded by a glowing barrier. "Their shields are incredibly advanced, capable of deflecting energy weapons that could vaporize a mountain. Plasma cannons, laser arrays, particle beams, all useless against modern alien defenses. But," she continued with a smile, "they have one critical weakness. Their shields are designed specifically to stop energy-based attacks. They've been using energy weapons for so long that they've forgotten about kinetic warfare entirely." Commander Choi stood up and activated his own display. "We've tested this theory extensively. 3 months ago, we captured an abandoned alien probe in the outer system. Our energy weapons couldn't even scratch its shields. But when we fired a simple tungsten rod at it using our railgun prototype, the projectile passed through the shields like they weren't even there." Chief Engineer Nam added her own information to the display. "The aliens have made the same mistake that many advanced civilizations make. They've assumed that newer always means better. They've spent centuries perfecting energy weapons and forgotten that sometimes the old ways work just fine." Jiwoo studied the data with growing excitement. "What kind of kinetic weapons are we talking about?" "That's where it gets interesting," Commander Choi said. "We've been developing something we call relativistic kill vehicles. Tungsten rods accelerated to 90% of light speed using gravity manipulation technology." Dr. Kim's eyes lit up. "We reverse-engineered the gravity manipulation from alien engine components we recovered. But we've improved on their design significantly. Human engineering has always been about making things more efficient, more reliable, more powerful. The aliens use gravity manipulation for smooth, comfortable travel," Nam explained. "We've weaponized it. A tungsten rod traveling at 90% light speed carries more kinetic energy than most nuclear weapons, and it passes through their shields like they're made of paper." Jiwoo leaned back in his chair, processing the implications. "How many of these weapons can we produce?" "We've been manufacturing them for 2 years, Nam replied. "We currently have over 500 RKVs in storage, with production increasing every month." "And delivery systems?" Commander Choi brought up another diagram. "That's the beautiful part. We don't need exotic delivery systems. Our primitive railgun technology, scaled up appropriately, can launch these weapons with perfect accuracy across combat distances." Dr. Kim added more technical details. "We've also made breakthrough progress in antimatter containment. The aliens use antimatter for their fastest ships, but their containment systems are overly complex. We've developed a simpler, more stable system that allows for much higher acceleration rates." Jiwoo stood up and walked to the main display, studying the technical specifications. so we can build ships that accelerate faster than alien vessels, carry weapons that can penetrate their defenses, and do it all using technology they'll dismiss as primitive." "Exactly," all three scientists said together. "There's more," Dr. Kim said, pulling up another file. "We've been monitoring alien communications for years. We know their tactical doctrines, their standard formations, their response procedures. They haven't fought a real war in over 2 centuries. They've become soft, overconfident," Commander Choi nodded. "Their military tactics are designed around energy weapon duels at long range. Ship-to-ship combat where both sides sit still and blast each other until someone's shields fail. They have no experience with kinetic weapons, no doctrine for dealing with high-speed projectiles." Chief Engineer Nam brought up a ship design on the display, which brings us to Project Hammerfall. "We've been designing a warship that will appear primitive to alien sensors while hiding our most advanced technology inside." The ship on the display looked exactly like what the aliens would expect from humanity. It had thick metal armor plating, visible chemical rocket engines, and what appeared to be simple railgun turrets. But as Nam manipulated the display, the outer shell became transparent, revealing the true ship hidden underneath. "The outer hull is completely detachable," she explained. "Underneath is a ship built with hybrid technology, alien materials and human engineering, hidden antimatter engines that can accelerate at rates that should be impossible, concealed RKV launchers that look like standard railguns, advanced sensors disguised as primitive equipment." Jiwoo stared at the design with admiration. "It's perfect. They'll see exactly what they expect to see. A crude human warship with basic armor and simple weapons. They'll never suspect what's really inside. The camouflage system is designed to fool every type of sensor we know about," Dr. Kim added. "Energy scans will show chemical engines and metal structure. Gravitational sensors will detect mass consistent with primitive construction. Even close visual inspection will reveal only what we want them to see." Commander Choi pulled up combat projections. "According to our simulations, a single ship of this design could destroy an entire alien fleet before they realized what was happening. Their shields can't stop our weapons. Their engines can't match our acceleration, and their tactics are completely unsuited for kinetic warfare." "How long to build the first ship?" Jiwoo asked. "The prototype is already under construction in the hidden shipyards around Titan," Nam replied. "We should have the HSV Indomitable ready for trials within 6 months." Jiwoo felt a surge of pride in his species. While the aliens had been laughing at human primitiveness, humanity had been quietly preparing for this moment. They had taken alien arrogance and turned it into a weapon. "What about crew training?" he asked. "We've been running combat simulations for 3 years, Commander Choi said. "Captain Oh Dong-wook has been training with the prototype systems. His crew knows every system, every weapon, every tactic we'll need." Dr. Kim brought up personnel files. "We've also been preparing our intelligence operations. Lieutenant Colonel Bae Soo-jin has teams ready to begin staged attacks on alien shipping. Nothing serious, just enough to provoke a response. We need to draw them into a fight where we can demonstrate our true capabilities. The plan is simple," Commander Choi explained. "We make nuisance attacks that appear to be desperate human raiders. The aliens will send a punishment fleet to teach us a lesson. When they arrive, they'll find what appears to be humanity's last desperate warship waiting for them. And then?" Jiwoo asked, though he already knew the answer. "Then we show them that laughing at humanity was the biggest mistake they've ever made," Nam said with a cold smile. Jiwoo looked around the table at his team. These were some of the finest minds humanity had ever produced, and they had spent years preparing for this moment. The aliens thought humans were primitive barbarians who would destroy themselves within a century. They were about to learn that humans were something far more dangerous. They were survivors who had learned to turn weakness into strength. "Begin Phase 2 of Protocol 7, Jiwoo ordered. "Start the raids, draw them out, and prepare the Indomitable for combat." As the meeting ended and his staff left to begin their preparations, 6 months after the humiliation at the Galactic Council, reports began reaching alien civilizations about a new problem. Human ships were attacking trade routes in neutral space. The attacks were clumsy and easily defeated, but they represented an escalation that could not be ignored. Lieutenant Colonel Bae Soo-jin stood on the bridge of the small human vessel as it limped away from its latest failed attack on an alien cargo ship. Her ship's hull was scorched and smoking from alien energy weapons exactly as planned. To any observer, it looked like another desperate human raid that had gone wrong. "Damage report," she called to her tactical officer. External armor is burned through in 7 places, came the reply. Engines are running at 60% efficiency. Weapon systems are offline. Perfect, Bay thought. The aliens would see exactly what they expected. A primitive human ship that had bitten off more than it could chew. What they would not see were the sophisticated sensors hidden throughout the damaged hull, recording every detail of alien shield frequencies, weapon signatures, and tactical responses. Set course for the outer system, she ordered. Let's go home and analyze what we learned. This was the 15th such raid in the past 4 months. Each one had been carefully planned to appear desperate and poorly executed, while actually gathering crucial intelligence. Bay's teams had mapped alien patrol patterns, studied their communication protocols, and tested their response times. The aliens were reacting exactly as human strategists had predicted. Each attack made them more angry and more confident. They saw the raids as proof that humans were violent primitives who would inevitably destroy themselves through their own aggression. On the Vorthak homeworld, Admiral Zektor received the latest reports with growing irritation. The Vorthak were one of the most powerful military forces in the galaxy, and these constant human attacks were becoming an embarrassment. 12 more attacks this month, his aide reported. All easily repelled, but the humans are becoming bolder. They're hitting larger convoys and venturing deeper into civilized space. Zektor studied the tactical displays with his 4 yellow eyes. The human attacks made no strategic sense. Their ships were too weak, their weapons too primitive, their tactics too obvious. But they kept coming like insects attacking a giant. What do our intelligence services say about human capabilities? He asked. His aide consulted a thick report. Analysis confirms what we observed at the council meeting. Human technology is centuries behind ours. Their ships use chemical propulsion and metal projectiles. Their shields are basic energy barriers that our weapons can penetrate in seconds. Then why do they keep attacking? Are they completely insane? The xenopsychology department believes humans are driven by primitive emotions they cannot control. They are angry about their rejection from the council and are lashing out like wounded animals. Zektor made a sound of disgust. His species had evolved from predators and he understood predatory behavior. But humans seem to combine the worst aspects of predators and prey. The violence of hunters with the stupidity of herd animals. Sir, his aide continued, the High Command is requesting that we deal with this problem. The other council species are beginning to question Vorthak military strength if we cannot handle a few primitive humans. That decided it for Zektor. The Vorthak reputation was built on military superiority. They could not allow their standing to be damaged by association with human incompetence. Assemble Battle Group 7, he ordered. 12 ships should be more than sufficient to destroy every human vessel in space and teach them the consequences of annoying their betters. What Zektor did not know was that his communications were being monitored by human intelligence, operatives who had infiltrated alien computer networks years earlier. Within hours of his order, Fleet Admiral Park Jiwoo received a complete copy of Vorthak fleet movements and battle plans. In the hidden shipyards around Titan, Captain Oh Dongwook walked through the final systems checks of the HSV Indomitable. The ship looked exactly as designed, like a larger, more heavily armed version of the primitive, human vessels that had been raiding alien shipping. The Indomitable's outer hull was thick metal, plating with visible welds and battle damage from previous engagements. Its engines appeared to be oversized chemical rockets. Its weapons looked like simple railguns mounted in crude turrets. To any alien sensor, it would register as exactly what they expected from humanity. Primitive but determined. Status report, Dongwook called to his crew. Chief Engineer Nam Hee-jin looked up from her console. All systems are green, Captain. The camouflage systems are operating perfectly. External sensors will detect only what we want them to detect. Weapons Officer Yoon Jae-sung ran through his checklist. RKV launchers are loaded and ready. Targeting systems are calibrated. The gravity manipulation drives are running in stealth mode. Navigator Lee So-young checked her instruments. The antimatter engines are ready for emergency activation. Current position shows us as a slow, lumbering human vessel. When we drop the disguise, we'll be able to accelerate at rates that will shock them. Dongwook nodded with satisfaction. His crew had trained for 3 years with these systems. They knew every bolt, every circuit, every tactical procedure. Most importantly, they understood the psychology of what they were about to do. Remember, he told them, We need to let them hurt us first. The camouflage has to hold until they're committed to the attack. They need to see what they expect to see. A desperate human ship making a last stand. The plan was elegant in its simplicity. The Indomitable would position itself in the Kepler 442 system, a location that would appear to be humanity's attempt to establish a forward base. When the Vorthak fleet arrived, they would find what seemed to be a single human warship waiting for them. The aliens would expect an easy victory. They would approach with confidence, possibly even allowing the humans to fire first for the entertainment value. They would demonstrate their superior technology by slowly destroying the primitive human vessel, and then the real war would begin. Dr. Kim So-ra had spent weeks analyzing Vorthak tactical doctrine. Their preferred combat formation put the largest ships in the center with smaller vessels forming a protective screen. They liked to fight at long range, using their energy weapons to wear down enemy shields before closing for the kill. Most importantly, they had not fought a real war in over 200 years. Their recent military actions had been police operations against primitive species or civil engineering projects. They had no experience with opponents who could actually threaten them. The Vorthak will approach in standard formation, Dr. Kim explained to the Indomitable's senior staff during their final briefing. They'll maintain maximum weapon range while demonstrating their superiority. Their doctrine calls for a 10-minute demonstration period where they show the enemy the futility of resistance. Commander Choi added his own analysis. Psychological warfare is a big part of their approach. They want their enemies to surrender out of despair rather than fight to the death. It's more efficient and maintains their reputation. Captain Dong-wook studied the tactical projections. So they'll give us 10 minutes to be afraid before they start the real attack. Exactly. They'll blast away our outer armor and weapons while lecturing us about Vorthak superiority. They want to break our morale before they break our ship. Perfect, Dong-wook said with a cold smile. 10 minutes is exactly how long we need. The final phase of preparation began immediately. Human intelligence networks across the galaxy went active, spreading carefully crafted disinformation about the Indomitable. Alien spies would report that humanity was preparing a superweapon, a desperate, last attempt to prove their worth to the galaxy. The reports described a ship, built from salvaged alien technology and human desperation. It was supposedly the most powerful vessel humanity had ever constructed, but still primitive compared to true alien warships. The perfect bait for an overconfident enemy. Meanwhile, the real preparations continued in secret. Supply ships disguised as civilian transports delivered the final loads of ammunition to the Indomitable. Each RKV was checked and rechecked. The gravity manipulation systems were tested and calibrated. The antimatter containment fields were verified. Most importantly, backup plans were put in place. If something went wrong, if the disguise failed, if the Vorthak proved harder to fool than expected, humanity had contingencies ready. 3 weeks later, long-range sensors detected the approach of Vorthak Battle Group 7, 12 ships of various sizes, all heavily armed and shielded. Their formation was exactly what human intelligence had predicted: arrogant, formal, designed for maximum intimidation. Admiral Zektor sat in his command chair, watching the tactical display as his fleet approached the Kepler 442 system. His sensors had detected the human vessel hours ago. Single ship of primitive construction waiting in the asteroid. Field. Analysis of the human ship. He called to his tactical officer. Basic. Metal construction, chemical engines, simple kinetic weapons. Mass suggests heavy armor but no advanced shielding. It appears to be alone. Zektor felt a surge of disappointment. After months of chasing human raiders, this was what they had to show for their efforts? One crude ship with no hope of victory? The two fleets faced each other in the cold darkness of the Kepler 442 system. Admiral Zektor's 12 Vorthak warships formed a perfect battle line, their hulls gleaming with energy shields and weapon arrays. Against them sat a single human vessel, the HSV Indomitable, looking small and primitive among the floating asteroids. Zektor activated his ship's external cameras to record the coming battle. This would be an excellent training video for young Vorthak officers, a demonstration of what happened when primitive species challenged their betters. Human vessel, he broadcast again, this is your final opportunity to surrender. You face 12 ships of the Vorthak Imperial Navy. Your single primitive vessel cannot possibly stand against us. On the bridge of the Indomitable, Captain O'Dongwook listened to the alien's ultimatum with amusement. His crew was ready. The ship's true systems were powered and waiting. The camouflage was holding perfectly. "Send our response," he told his communications officer. The message that went back to the Vorthak fleet was simple and direct. "Admiral Zektor, this is Captain O'Dongwook of the Human Space Navy. We reject your offer. Come and take us if you can." Zektor made a sound of disgust. These humans truly were as primitive and stubborn as the reports claimed. Very well. If they wanted to die as heroes in their own primitive stories, he would accommodate them. "All ships assume attack formation. Begin the demonstration protocol. I want this human ship disabled slowly so they can understand the futility of their position." The Vorthak fleet spread out into their standard combat pattern. The largest ships moved to the center while smaller vessels formed a protective screen. Their plasma cannons began to glow as they charged up to firing power. On the Indomitable, Weapons Officer Yoon Jae-sung watched his sensors carefully. "Enemy ships are charging weapons, Captain. They're taking their time, probably planning to toy with us first." "Perfect," Dongwook replied. "Let them play. We need them overconfident and careless." The first Vorthak plasma blasts lit up space with brilliant blue energy. They struck the Indomitable's outer hull with tremendous force, burning away armor plating and sending clouds of vaporized metal into space. To the aliens, it looked like their weapons were performing exactly as expected. What they did not see was that the damaged armor was only the outer shell, designed to be sacrificed. Underneath, the real ship remained untouched. "Damage report," Dongwook called. "Outer hull is taking damage as planned," Chief Engineer Nam Hee-jin reported. "All primary systems are undamaged. The real armor is holding perfectly." More plasma blasts struck the human ship. The Vorthak were following their doctrine precisely, attacking weapon systems first to disable the enemy's ability to fight back. They destroyed what appeared to be railgun turrets and missile launchers, not knowing they were attacking empty decoys. Admiral Zektor watched with satisfaction as the human ship's weapons were systematically destroyed. "Excellent marksmanship," he told his gunners. "Now target their engines. I want them dead in space so we can board and examine their primitive technology." The Vorthak plasma cannons shifted targets, burning away what appeared to be chemical rocket engines. Explosions bloomed across the Indomitable's hull as fuel tanks detonated, and engine components were destroyed. "Sir," Zektor's tactical officer reported, "the human ship is severely damaged. Their weapons are offline and their engines are failing. They're losing power. Good, open a channel. Let's see if they're ready to surrender now." The communication beam reached the Indomitable, and Zektor's image appeared on the main screen. The Admiral's four eyes gleamed with triumph. "Human Captain," he said with mock sympathy, "your ship is dying. Your weapons are destroyed. Your engines are failing. Surrender now and I will make your deaths quick and merciful." Captain Dongwook appeared on screen, his face calm despite the apparent desperate situation. "Admiral, I appreciate your offer, but I'm afraid we must decline." "You decline?" Zektor could not hide his amusement. "Look around you, human. Your ship is finished. You have no weapons, no engines, no hope. What could you possibly have left to fight with?" Dongwook smiled, and something in that expression made Zektor feel the first hint of unease. "We have something your people seem to have forgotten about," the human captain said. "We have surprises." That was the signal his crew had been waiting for. Weapons Officer Yoon Jae-sung pressed a single button on his console. All across the Indomitable's hull, explosive bolts detonated simultaneously. The outer shell of the ship, the primitive armor and fake engines and decoy weapons separated and drifted away like a discarded skin. What was revealed underneath was something that should not have existed. The real HSV Indomitable was a work of art and engineering that combined human ingenuity with alien technology in ways no one had thought possible. Its hull was smooth and dark, made from materials that seemed to absorb light. Strange geometries covered its surface where weapons and sensors were hidden. Most shocking of all, it was larger than the outer shell had indicated. Much larger. Admiral Zektor stared at his tactical display in disbelief. What is that?" His sensor officer was frantically trying to make sense of the readings. "Sir, I'm detecting massive energy signatures from the human vessel. Antimatter reactors, gravity manipulation systems, weapons that don't match any known configuration." "That's impossible," Zektor snarled. Humans are primitive. They use chemical rockets and metal bullets. On the Indomitable's bridge, Captain Dongwook felt a fierce satisfaction as he watched the alien confusion. All stations drop stealth protocols. Let them see what we really are. The ship's true systems came online all at once. Gravity manipulation drives that had been running in silent mode suddenly roared to full power. The Indomitable began to accelerate at rates that should have been impossible for a ship of its size. "Sir," the Vorthak tactical officer reported in a shaking voice, "the human ship is accelerating at over 200 Gs. That should crush any living crew." "It should," Zektor agreed, "unless they have artificial gravity systems far more advanced than ours." Weapons Officer Yoon Jae-sung checked his targeting display. "Captain, all enemy ships are in optimal firing position. They're bunched together in their standard formation, perfect targets." "Fire," Dongwook ordered. What happened next violated everything the Vorthak thought they knew about space combat. The Indomitable's weapons were not plasma cannons or energy beams. They were something far more primitive and far more deadly. Tungsten rods. Each one accelerated to 90% of light speed by gravity manipulation technology, streaked across space faster than the alien sensors could track. The first volley consisted of 4 projectiles, each one targeted at a different Vorthak ship. The aliens' shields, designed to deflect energy weapons, might as well have not existed. The kinetic projectiles passed through them without slowing down. When the tungsten rods struck their targets, the impact released energy equivalent to nuclear weapons. 4 Vorthak ships simply vanished. One moment they were there, proud warships of a galactic superpower. The next moment they were expanding clouds of plasma and debris. What happened? Zektor screamed at his sensors officer. "What destroyed those ships?" I don't know, sir. I detected some kind of kinetic projectiles, but they were moving too fast to track properly. They passed right through our shields." Admiral Zektor felt something he had not experienced in decades: fear. The humans had just destroyed 4 of his ships with weapons that should not exist. Worse, the human vessel was still accelerating, moving faster than any Vorthak ship could match. "All ships, emergency retreat," he ordered. "Full power to engines!" But it was already too late. The Indomitable was between the Vorthak fleet and open space, and it was moving faster than anything they had ever seen. Second volley. "Fire," Captain Dongwook ordered. 4 more tungsten rods streaked across space. 4 more Vorthak ships died instantly. The remaining 4 ships tried desperately to escape, their plasma engines pushing them to maximum velocity. The Indomitable pursued them with casual ease. Its gravity drives allowed it to change direction instantly, to accelerate and decelerate without the gradual curves that conventional engines required. To the fleeing Vorthak, it must have seemed like their hunter could ignore the laws of physics. Third volley, fire. 2 more ships died. Admiral Zektor's flagship and 1 escort were all that remained of the proud Battle Group 7. "Sir," his communications officer reported, "I'm receiving a transmission from the human ship." Captain Dongwook's face appeared on the screen again. He looked completely calm, as if the destruction of 10 alien warships was a minor inconvenience. "Admiral Zektor," the human said politely, "I'm prepared to accept your surrender now." Zektor's minds reeled. Surrender to humans? The idea was impossible to comprehend. "This cannot be happening," he whispered. "You're primitive. Your technology is centuries behind ours. Your ships are held together with bolts and chemical explosions." "That's what we wanted you to think," Dongwook replied. "You see, Admiral, you made a critical error. You underestimated us based on what you could see, not on what we might be hiding. But your ships that attacked our convoys, they were so weak, so poorly designed." "Those ships were exactly as weak as they appeared," the human captain agreed. "We built them that way on purpose." The news spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Admiral Zektor's surviving ships limped back to Vorthak space carrying a message that nobody wanted to believe. Battle Group 7, one of the most powerful fleets in the galaxy, had been destroyed by a single human vessel. 10 ships had died in minutes, their shields useless against weapons that should not exist. The first reaction from most alien civilizations was denial. The reports had to be exaggerated, or the humans had received help from some unknown ally. It was impossible for such a primitive species to develop technology that advanced without anyone noticing. But then the recordings arrived. Admiral Zektor had been recording the battle for training purposes, and what those recordings showed changed everything. The galaxy watched in stunned silence as a human ship shed its disguise like a snake shedding skin, revealing technology that surpassed their own. On the crystal spires of Nexus Prime, the Galactic Council convened an emergency session. The same chamber where they had laughed at Captain Lee Taman 6 months earlier was now filled with fear and confusion. The six-armed alien who had led the mockery of humanity stood at the central podium, his scales pale with shock. "Members of the Council," he began, his voice no longer carrying its previous arrogance, "we face a situation unprecedented in our recorded history." The floating light being that had dismissed human technology spoke next. "Our intelligence services have confirmed the authenticity of the Vorthak recordings. The human vessel displayed capabilities that exceed our own in multiple areas." The massive gray alien that had mocked human civilization leaned forward in his seat. "The kinetic weapons they used pass through our shields as if they do not exist. Our defense systems are completely inadequate against this threat." Across the galaxy, emergency meetings were taking place on every major world. The Ethereal Collective recalled their exploration fleets and activated defense networks that had not been used in centuries. The Zephyrian hegemony began frantic research into kinetic weapons, trying to understand how they had overlooked such a basic threat. On the Vorthak homeworld, Admiral Zektor stood before the High Command, delivering the most difficult report of his career. His uniform had been stripped of rank insignia, and his 4 eyes reflected the shame of total defeat. "The humans allowed us to attack first," he explained to the assembled generals. "They used our own arrogance against us. We saw primitive armor and crude weapons because that is what they wanted us to see." General Vecnal, the supreme commander of Vorthak forces, studied the battle recordings with growing horror. "How did we miss this? Our intelligence services reported that humans were centuries behind us technologically." "Because they hid their true capabilities perfectly," Zektor replied. "Every piece of evidence we saw supported their primitive appearance. The ships that attacked our convoys were exactly as weak as they seemed. But underneath they were gathering intelligence about our weapons, our tactics, our psychology. The recordings showed the moment when the human ship revealed its true nature." The assembled Vorthak generals watched their ships die one by one, helpless against weapons they had never imagined. "Kinetic weapons," General Vecnal said quietly. "We abandoned such crude tools millennia ago in favor of energy-based systems. We never considered that someone might improve them to this degree. The humans took our discarded technology and made it into something deadlier than our most advanced weapons." Zeknal agreed. "They combined our own gravity manipulation systems with kinetic projectiles to create something we have no defense against." While the alien civilizations struggled to understand what had happened, humanity was preparing for the next phase of their plan. In the hidden command center beneath Seoul, Fleet Admiral Park Ji-woo received reports from across human space. "Sir," his aide reported, "we're detecting massive alien fleet movements throughout the galaxy. Most species are pulling their ships back to defensive positions around their homeworlds." "Expected," Ji-woo replied. "They're scared and confused. Perfect conditions for what comes next." Dr. Kim Sora entered the command center carrying a tablet full of data. "Admiral, we're receiving communication requests from 17 different alien civilizations. They all want to open diplomatic channels with Earth." "Also expected," Ji-woo said with satisfaction. "Fear makes people much more willing to negotiate." Commander Choi Min-ho joined the group, his expression showing barely contained excitement. "Sir, Captain O reports that the Indomitable has returned to Titan safely. All systems performed perfectly during the engagement. And our production facilities? Running at maximum capacity," Chief Engineer Nam Hee-jen reported as she arrived. "We now have 15 ships of the Indomitable class completed, with 5 more finishing construction each month." Ji-woo nodded. The plan was proceeding exactly as designed. Humanity had revealed enough of their capabilities to gain respect, but not enough to provoke a desperate alliance against them. "What's the current political situation across the galaxy?" he asked Dr. Kim. "Chaos," she replied with evident satisfaction. "The Vorthak are demanding military support from their allies to counter the human threat. The Ethereal Collective is trying to form a research alliance to develop defenses against kinetic weapons. The Zephyrians are attempting to negotiate separate peace treaties with Earth." "No unified response?" "None," Dr. Kim confirmed. "Each species is looking out for their own interests. Some want to fight us, others want to join us, most just want to be left alone." The galaxy has never seen a technological paradigm shift this dramatic. A communication alert sounded throughout the command center. Jiwoo looked at the source identification and smiled. It's from the Galactic Council, his communications officer reported. They're requesting immediate diplomatic contact with Earth's government. Put it through. The holographic display activated, showing the familiar crystal chamber of the Galactic Council. But the scene was very different from 6 months earlier, where before there had been laughter and mockery. Now there was barely controlled fear. The 6-armed alien who had dismissed humanity's application stood at the podium, but his posture was completely different. He spoke with the careful respect of someone addressing an equal. Fleet Admiral Park Jiwoo of Earth, he began. The Galactic Council formally requests a diplomatic meeting to discuss humanity's resubmitted application for membership. Jiwoo let the silence stretch for several seconds before responding. When he spoke, his voice carried the quiet confidence of someone who knew they held all the advantages. Council Speaker, he said, using the alien's formal title, Earth is prepared to send a diplomatic mission to discuss our membership application. However, the terms will be different this time. What terms do you propose? Full membership with voting rights equal to any other council species. Access to all galactic trade networks and communication systems, and formal recognition of human sovereignty over all systems within 50 light-years of Earth. The council speaker's scales shifted color, a sign of stress among his species. Those are substantial requests. They are reasonable requests, Jiwoo corrected. We have demonstrated that humanity possesses technology and military capabilities that equal or exceed any council member. We should be treated accordingly. Behind the speaker, Jiwoo could see other council members having hurried conversations. The ancient alien who had spoken about humanity's stubbornness stepped forward. Admiral, the ancient being said, we acknowledge that our previous assessment of human capabilities was incomplete. We are prepared to consider your requests favorably. Excellent, Jiwoo replied. Captain Lee Taemin will arrive at Nexus Prime in 1 week to begin formal negotiations. This time I trust he will receive the respect due to a representative of Earth. Of course, the speaker said quickly. Full diplomatic honors will be observed. One more thing, Jiwoo added. Captain Lee will be arriving aboard an Indomitable-class vessel. I want the galaxy to see exactly what human engineering can accomplish when we put our minds to it. After the transmission ended, the command center erupted in quiet celebration. Humanity had gone from being a joke to being a major power in the span of 6 months. But Jiwoo was already thinking about the next phase. Earth's security depended on more than just superior technology. They needed allies, trade relationships, and a position in galactic politics that would ensure long-term stability. Dr. Kim, he called, I want a full analysis of which alien species are most likely to become reliable partners. Look for civilizations that value innovation over tradition, trade over conquest. Already on it, sir, she replied. The preliminary data suggests several promising candidates. 3 days later, the HSV Indomitable departed Earth for its second journey to Nexus Prime. But this time, it was not alone. 4 more ships of the same class accompanied it, their dark hulls gleaming in the sunlight. Captain Oh Dong-wook stood on the bridge of his ship, watching the alien space stations grow larger on the main screen. This time there would be no disguise, no pretense of weakness. Humanity was revealing itself as it truly was, a species that had learned to turn their apparent disadvantages into devastating strengths. Sir, his communications officer reported, we're receiving priority clearance from Nexus Prime Traffic Control.